The 17th century was an age of discovery. Ships charted new oceans, telescopes peered into the heavens. Yet in London, another world existed, Bedlam. Its name became synonymous with chaos. Here, the human mind in its most fragile state was caged, not cared for. The sounds that echoed through its stone corridors were not of healing, but of weeping, rattling chains and hollow laughter. This was not a hospital as we know it, but a place where society sent its broken minds to be forgotten. Imagine walking through its gates on a damp London morning, the air thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and despair. In the gloom, figures shift and murmur, men and women from all walks of life, their only crime a mind that strayed from the accepted path. Their punishment was isolation, their humanity slowly stripped away. The public could pay a penny to view the inmates, a human zoo where suffering became spectacle. Visitors poked and taunted, seeking a display of madness to recount later. The mind, that most intimate part of our being, was treated as a curiosity, not a subject for compassion. The very walls of Bedlam absorbed this misery, standing as a monument to ignorance. Here, the story of our relationship with mental illness begins a dark chapter. The gentle, community-based care of earlier times was replaced by institutional neglect. The asylum became a warehouse for the unwanted, where the line between patient and prisoner vanished. To understand the history of mental health, we must first walk these spectral corridors. We must listen to the ghosts of Bedlam. Their story is a vital, unsettling part of our own. In these echoing halls, the seeds of stigma and misunderstanding were sown. The legacy of Bedlam lingers, a warning from the past. This is where our journey begins. To understand the cruelty of 17th century asylums, we must look at the beliefs that built them. This was an age of emerging science, but superstition still reigned. Mental illness was seen as a spiritual affliction, demonic possession, divine punishment, or a witch's curse. The afflicted were not just unwell, they were morally suspect. If madness was a demon, the cure was torment, prayers, exorcisms, and methods bordering on torture. The patient became a battleground between good and evil, not a person to be healed. Another theory blamed moral weakness, madness as a result of idleness, excessive study, or unrequited love. Women's suffering was often dismissed as hysteria, a supposed disorder of the womb. These ideas placed blame on the individual, making it easy for families to cast them out. The asylum became a place to contain, punish, and hide the shameful. Physicians were wardens, not healers. 17th century mental health care was built on fear, superstition, and condemnation. This worldview shaped every aspect of the asylum. Treatments in Bedlam reflected the era's profound misunderstanding of the mind. The goal was not healing, but shock and subjugation. Trepanation, drilling holes in the skull, was meant to release evil spirits, but often led to infection or death. The whirling chair spun patients at high speed, hoping to jolt the mind back to normality. It only caused terror and sickness. Ice-cold baths were used to shock patients into submission. Restraints were heavy iron chains, not soft cuffs. Gags silenced screams. Special chairs immobilized patients for days. These were not therapies, but assaults, designed to break the spirit. The asylum became a laboratory of pain, mistaking suffering for treatment. Each device was a testament to the failure to see the person behind the illness. Bedlam was not a place of healing, but of cruelty. Central to 17th century medicine was the theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Mental illness was blamed on an excess or deficiency of these fluids. Bloodletting was the universal cure. Veins opened, leeches applied, patients left weak and vulnerable. Purges followed, violent vomiting and diarrhea induced by toxic herbs. These treatments exhausted the body, creating a listlessness mistaken for improvement. Physicians saw this as cleansing the soul's afflictions. The humoral theory, though scientific in appearance, was fiction. It reduced complex conditions to fluid imbalances, ignoring the patient's humanity. Treatments targeted a theory, not the person. The result was systematic, painful poisoning. The suffering was real, the science was not. The legacy of these practices is a cautionary tale. 17th-century asylums were built for control, not care. Repurposed castles and monasteries became fortresses, thick walls, barred windows, heavy doors. Light and air were luxuries. Darkness and squalor were the norm. Patients were crowded together, the violent with the withdrawn, fear ever present. Straw bedding was rarely changed, sanitation was non-existent, and vermin thrived. Chains and manacles were the primary tools of management, leaving sores and infections. Restraint was both a method and a message. To be in chains was to be less than human. The constant rattling of iron was the soundtrack of the asylum. This environment broke spirits, not just bodies. Far from curing, it deepened suffering. The architecture was designed to crush hope and enforce conformity through fear. The asylum was an architecture of despair. Mental illness spared no class. The wealthy, like Sir William, suffered in private. Once respected, Sir William became withdrawn, suspicious, and volatile. His family, desperate and ignorant, sought priests and physicians. Diagnosed with melancholy, he endured bloodletting, purges, and isolation. His comforts were stripped away. His room became a cell. Barred windows, removed furniture, and iron restraints replaced his former luxury. Attended by fearful keepers, he was a prisoner in his own home. His family, believing they acted out of love, participated in his torment. Wealth bought only a more isolated cruelty. Sir William's story shows how ignorance and fear could turn any home into a private bedlam. Dignity and compassion were lost to superstition. His descent was not just personal, but a reflection of a society without understanding. The darkness of the asylum could exist anywhere. For women, the path to the asylum was often shorter, shaped by misogyny and misunderstanding. Hysteria was a catch-all diagnosis for any behavior deemed unfeminine or troubling. Imagine Eleanor, a housewife suffering postpartum depression after childbirth. Her distress is dismissed as hysteria, a wandering womb, unbalanced humors. Treatments targeted her gender, noxious fumes, unpleasant tonics, and scorn. Her husband's patience wears thin. Her weeping is seen as manipulation. Society offers no support, only whispers of weakness or curse. Eventually, she is committed to an asylum, her identity erased. She joins other women suffering from grief, trauma, or misunderstood illness. Keepers treat them with contempt. Emotion is punished with the whirling chair or cold baths. Eleanor's treatable illness becomes a life sentence of neglect. Her story is one of countless women dismissed and pathologized by the very systems meant to care for them. Gendered misunderstanding deepened the cruelty. The asylum was not just a place of confinement, but of erasure. Women's suffering was magnified by prejudice. The horrors of the asylum reflected a broader societal failure, a lack of empathy for the mentally ill. Without a scientific framework, society fell back on fear and prejudice. The mad were seen as other, stripped of their humanity and rights. Suffering minds were mocked, caged, and commodified. Paying to see Bedlam's inmates turned pain into public spectacle. Legal and social structures reinforced exclusion. The mentally ill lost property, freedom, and family. The asylum became a tool for social control, disposing of the inconvenient. This misunderstanding condemned thousands to misery and stifled scientific inquiry. Containment replaced curiosity. Punishment replaced treatment. Empathy was absent, replaced by grim necessity. The asylum was a dark mirror of society's fears. To look back at the 17th century asylum is to confront a deeply uncomfortable truth. The story of Bedlam is not just about the past. It warns of the dangers of ignorance and stigma. The journey from Bedlam to modern mental health care has been long and painful. We now know mental illness is not a moral failing, but a complex medical condition. Science and compassion have replaced superstition and cruelty, yet the shadows of the past linger. Stigma and misunderstanding persist. People still hesitate to seek help, fearing judgment. The feeling of being othered remains for many. The asylum walls may have fallen, but invisible barriers endure. Remembering Bedlam is a cautionary tale and a call to empathy. By honoring those who suffered, we commit to a more compassionate future. Empathy must be cultivated and defended. The story of Bedlam is not just history. It is a mirror and a map for a better world.